Hey guys, Blake Lovell here, Southeastern 14, and we are going to take a look at the Friday games in the SEC tournament. The quarterfinals are officially set, and yeah, I'm flying solo again. Chris, we're both busy. We're both covering the tournament in Nashville here, and yeah, we've both just got a lot to do, and so I'm gonna help Chris out by doing our picks. Now, I joke like I mean, he probably just wants me to make the picks. That way, if I get them wrong, you just blame me. You don't have to blame him. But it's okay. I appreciate Chris, and it's fine, Chris. I'll take the blame for the bad picks. But yesterday was kind of a I want to say predictable slate in the SEC tournament, but you did have sort of a very interesting setup, which makes these games today very very interesting when you look at this quarterfinal slate. I think it's one of the best quarterfinal slates we've seen in the SEC tournament in quite a while. But we'll kind of tie in what happened yesterday as we start to look at these games on Friday. Well, let's jump into the first game of the day, which will be Alabama versus Mississippi State, the number 1 seed versus the number 9 seed. As we said yesterday, Mississippi State, a team I thought that absolutely had to beat Florida if they really wanted to stay right there in the NCAA tournament conversation. I think that's enough to get them in because, again, a loss to Alabama does not hurt you. It would certainly help them if Mississippi State were to beat Alabama. It would be a situation where not only would they be a lock to make the tournament, they would certainly be a lock not to be in Dayton. And I think, that can have some value to it. So maybe they're not there right now either. But I think if you want to just completely 100% take out that possibility, if they beat Alabama, they will do just that. But Mississippi State able to hold off Florida in overtime. Great game again to open the day yesterday. And, between that game and the Auburn Arkansas game, you had two just really great games. I mean, I thought those were two very high level SEC basketball games. And, that was one where, once again, you just kind of saw, I think, the power of Tolu Smith. Goes for 28 and 12. He was the guy. And, I think it's just one of those things when you look at that team, Mississippi State, you see them and you understand defensively when it's all clicking, they are really hard to score against. And a lot of teams, of course, have seen that this season. But I do think it's a thing where, now you look at this team going into this game against Alabama. Again, they win this game. They got a lot of motivation because they know if they win, they're 100% in the tournament. There's no doubt left whatsoever. But I do look at this also for Mississippi State and feel like, okay, they can bring some confidence into this matchup because when you really look at it, go back to the game they played in Tuscaloosa on January 25th. This was a game that was a 3-point. Alabama won 66-63. Mississippi State started off well in that game, played well defensively. Alabama only had 9 points with about 9 minutes left in the first half. And so they found a model that can work. And that, of course, involved Alabama not making many shots. They went 5 of 28 from three in that game. But Mississippi State's defense has something to do with that because they are a team in terms of their size, just their length, able to defend the way that they are. And I think that's one, again, if you're looking for a formula for Mississippi State to beat Alabama, the formula for me is very simple. You're definitely, trying to guard on the perimeter, to prevent Alabama and those hot shooting streaks that that they're capable of. When it comes to coming down, knocking down 3 straight threes, and all of a sudden the game is completely flipped. But as we know too, why Alabama is so good, well, first of all, it's because they're great on the defensive side of the floor, which I think will be a challenge for Mississippi State. We'll talk about that in a second. But also, Alabama's able to score in a lot of different ways. It's not just getting to the 3-point line and making shots. It is, just a variety of ways they can score with Brandon Miller and such. So I think that's what this one is very interesting from that standpoint. And Mississippi State has to defend because the problem is if their defense is slipping a little bit, offensively, this is still a team. Go back to the game against Florida yesterday. I mean, they only hit two? I think they were 2 of 14 from three. Last game against Alabama, they were 3 of 15 from three. And we know this is no surprise for a team that is 363rd nationally in 3-point shooting. They're shooting 27% from three. That's not their go-to. But when it is their go-to and they decide to take some threes, here's what they're doing well. They're a great offensive rebounding team. And I think that's one thing that stood out in the last meeting between Alabama and Mississippi State. Mississippi State didn't have a ton of offensive rebounds. They only had 8 in that game. But yet they were still kind of able to hang around. Those second chance opportunities to me in this kind of game in a tournament are going to be crucial because they can get a lot of offensive boards. And we saw that, yesterday against Florida. They had 18 offensive rebounds. And can they get those? It's going to be a challenge, I think, against Alabama because of why? Because Alabama's got Noah Clowney. They've got Charles Bediako. They've got Brandon Miller. In terms of just the rebounding aspect, I think that's one. If Alabama can prevent those, I see a hard path for Mississippi State to be able to win this game. But again, if Alabama's not making shots, all bets are off because this is a state team. If they make you play their style, it's not, they're right there with a chance. And we said that, you guys know, we talked about that a lot this year in terms of just the close games they played. And really, it's because their style, they're not a team that's going to overwhelm you offensively, but their defense is going to keep them right there with a chance. And so I'm very curious to see how this plays out. Chris always breaks down the the numbers in terms of the spread and all that. He puts it into his computer models and all that stuff. But I think Alabama's about a 7.5, 7-point favorite, something like that in this game. Ken Palm has this as an 8-point game in Alabama's advantage. I'm obviously going to pick Alabama in this one, but again, I would not be shocked at all if this is, look, 9 seed, wins a game on Thursday, goes in and plays the one. We've seen this setup before. And so I think this is a very intriguing matchup just for that reason. And Tolo Smith, he's the difference because if he has a bad game, if Alabama's able to sort of, I think, take him out of the equation, then you've really got to rely on a lot of guys to step up offensively for Mississippi State. And consistently, I don't know that we've seen that, just in terms of how the matchup falls here with Alabama. So, yeah, we'll see what happens, but I'm going to take Alabama in this one. All right, the second game of the day, it is the 4-5 matchup. Missouri and Tennessee square off. I think this is the one that I probably felt the most predictable in terms of knowing you were probably getting to this scenario just based on feeling good about Tennessee's chances against Ole Miss or South Carolina. Speaking of that, Tennessee, of course, took care of business, just really grinded out a win against Ole Miss, 70-55. It was your typical, I think, Tennessee type game where Ole Miss would try to make a run. They got off to a good start, but it was Tennessee just kind of defensively. You guys know, I mean, look how well they play on the defensive side of the floor. And I think this was another game where they showcased that. One thing I will say, and look, we watch these teams all year, right? You guys know we watch them from afar. We're not able to go to every single game. But I do think it's at least interesting to note that watching them yesterday against Ole Miss, the Zakai Ziegler factor is real. And I think you could tell, this team is not, it's not the same team without him. But that's not to say that Tennessee cannot win games in March without him. It of course depends on the matchup and the bracket, but you can tell there is that something missing. And I think it's all those things that he brought on both sides of the court, but yet they're able to still kind of pull ahead of Ole Miss in that game and take care of business. Josiah Jordan James had a good game. Vescovy had a good game. So I think that continues to be what they're going to rely on here is just getting a lot of contributions from. I mean, Kamwa had a good game. I thought 9 points. And I know that doesn't sound like a lot, right? But like they need that kind of production from everybody right now. And Julian Phillips had 8. And look, they got a little bit of something out of everybody that played. And I think that's going to be crucial for this Tennessee team, especially perhaps in this game against Missouri. We remember back the game they play, one of the wildest, games of the season in the SEC, February 11th. Missouri wins 86-85 in Knoxville on the DeAndre Golston shot at the buzzer. That was a tale of sort of two halves of the game. Missouri got off to a great start. They shot the ball well, hit 14 threes. Tennessee came roaring back. They hit threes of their own, got to the free throw line 33 times, made 12 threes. Tyreek Key had a big game in that one, and he was the big reason why Tennessee was able to make that push back. But I tell you guys, this is a very interesting game because I don't know exactly what to expect from Missouri shooting wise, and I think that's the key to this game. We've said, remember, talk about going back and looking at some of those games Missouri has struggled in away from home. It's because they didn't shoot the three well. And as we know, this is still a team that I think defensively, there can be, a lot to be desired at times in terms of just the defensive consistency. And of course, I think rebounding. And to me, this is one of those games rebounding wise, when you look at it, that, you go back to the previous game. I think Tennessee I'm looking at it now, 15 offensive rebounds in that game. They out rebounded Missouri, 37-24. I think this is one of those where, Missouri has to prevent those second chance opportunities because, especially if Tennessee's making shots from outside, which they did in that game. And again, Tyreek Key was a big reason for that. But If Tennessee's making shots from outside, um, that's something too where you don't want to give them any opportunities extra, even beyond that to be able to exploit some of those weaknesses. I think for Missouri rebounding and defensively, and so I'm very curious to see from that standpoint, um, kind of how this game unfolds. This is just such a fascinating matchup to me on a neutral court, especially. Because look, you could say if this game was played in Columbia or Knoxville, which we saw last time, how wild it was in Knoxville, but I don't know shooting wise what you're going to get from either of these two teams, and that's why I think this is so fascinating. Is you could have Missouri at their best come out and hit 15 threes and win this game. Tennessee could come out and hit threes, and with the way they play defense, if Missouri's not hitting shots, Tennessee could come out and win this game by double digits. But it's just hard to know kind of, and you guys know I've called Tennessee the wild card. I think that's exactly what they are. But Missouri can be the wild card too, because if they're hitting shots, they can make a run to Sunday. Like it's just that I love the matchup here because I just think you've got so many intriguing elements on both sides. Contractually, if you're watching this, you guys know I cannot pick Missouri because Missouri fans made it very clear that I need to not pick them. And so we have to go back to the reverse mojo is what Missouri fans would like for me. So, I'm picking Tennessee in this game because I contractually cannot pick Missouri. If you don't get that joke, I'm sorry. But a lot of you who are regular watchers know what I'm talking about. But I don't know. I think this game can go either way. I really do. I don't know what the difference is. For Missouri, like I said, I think the keys are clearly they have to rebound the ball well. They have to defend better. But for Tennessee, I mean, it's really a matter of I think seeing if they can hold Missouri down from the 3-point line. If they can, I think they're going to have a lot of success in this game because that again has been the difference for Missouri in games that they've struggled in away from home. It's really sort of been the situation where they just have not been able to make shots. And as we always say, making shots makes everything else easier. And so if you're doing that, you're in good shape. But there's a lot of fun, matchups here when you look at it. I mean, again, with Kobe Brown on the side of Missouri, Demoy Hodge, can he get Missouri some easy buckets just with some steals? I think that'll be crucial. And look, that may be something comes into play without Zakai Ziegler on the floor. Can that be kind of a big factor here because of how they turn people over? Tennessee without its point guard with Zakai Ziegler, how big of a difference can that be for Missouri in this game? So a lot of fun elements, but again, I'm going to take Tennessee because I have to. Missouri fans know I don't have a choice. You guys have not given me a choice, but this is a fun one. I really am looking forward to this game. I think this will be a really, really good matchup when you look at it on both sides. So, all right, to the night session we go. And the first game in the night session will be Texas A&M, the 2 seed, taking on the 10 seed Arkansas Razorbacks. And of course, I mean, look, we could have compared the Mississippi State Florida games yesterday to the game, with Auburn and Arkansas. Both were tremendous. I thought the Auburn Arkansas one maybe got a little bit of a nod for me just because that was I said it on Twitter, guys. You may have seen it. Like that was the 7-10 game in the SEC tournament. It's really wild to believe that's where we were with those two teams as the 7 and the 10, but it was. And, I think it's just very interesting to see how this is going to unfold now for Arkansas because how many times have we seen this in recent years where maybe there is a time where you're like, all right, it's time to just be done with this team, which I know some Arkansas fans were kind of at that point. They're like, we just don't have it now. Like, look at the way we're playing. We just don't have it. Like this, something's missing. Well, but then you can go out and get a win like they got against Auburn. And what can that do from you from a confidence standpoint? Again, sitting there in the building, like you can see it. Like I'm watching these teams, facial expressions, bench, all that stuff. Like that confidence is back in Arkansas. Like you really saw it when they made those, couple runs to push that lead out in that game. And even though Auburn made the comeback to have a shot at the end to tie it to send it to overtime, that confidence is there now with Arkansas. And that's something where it can be a dangerous thing because again, how many times have we seen a team on Thursday win a game, get hot, make that run? But to do it, they're going to have to go through Texas A&M, a team that is the number 2 seed in this tournament. But in all honesty, a lot of people probably still have their questions about A&M. I don't have a ton of questions about A&M right now. I've said before, the only thing for me is let's say they find themselves in some of those games where they're not getting to the free throw line enough. Can they have enough offensively to make up for that? I do think they can because they have some good offensive players, whether it's Wade Taylor, Tyrese Radford, and so forth. So I think there's certainly opportunity there. But this is a matchup when you look at these two teams. We were joking about the the Auburn Arkansas game, maybe how many free throws are shot in that one, and you just don't know. But I think this is a very fun matchup when you look at it. A&M went to Arkansas on January 31st. That was a game that Arkansas won. And they had the rematch on February 15th. A&M won that game in College Station, much more lower scoring game. And once again, A&M got to the free throw line, 18 to 22 from the line there. And Arkansas just could not really make shots. And that's the challenge against A&M is they are such a good defensive team. Both teams, very good defensive teams here. And I just think this is going to be one where, you look at it, and to me, I think here's what we've seen with Arkansas having Nick Smith back. And I know, it didn't work out kind of in that stretch run of the regular season, but we saw yesterday one of the important elements he brings them is the ability to knock down a jump shot at important times. And I know he only went 2 of 5 from 3 yesterday, but it felt like he hit some big shots at the big moments, right? And that's what you want out of the guy that, most people expect to be your star. But also, I mean, Anthony Black was great yesterday. He was tremendous. I know he had some turnovers, but still, when you look at just kind of all the value he brings beyond scoring, I just think that those two guys matching up once again on the perimeter, obviously Davis is in there too, but against the guys like Taylor and Radford, Dexter Dennis, all those guys. I mean, it's a really good matchup on both sides. And so I look at this game, and once again, when you just compare these two teams, I'm going to pull up the numbers here as Chris would. By the way, I didn't say it in the Tennessee Missouri game, but I think Tennessee opened as, I want to say, a 6-point favorite. I think they're a 5.5-point favorite in this game right now. So that is at least worth noting. If you're a Missouri fan interested in that one, Tennessee by 5.5 is where the current line is set. Let me look this up real quick. You guys know I don't have the same. I don't remember the same things Chris does. Actually, KenPom has Tennessee as an 8-point favorite in this one. So, so that's at least interesting to note there. This one, as you would expect, Arkansas is a 1-point favorite according to KenPom in this game. So, again, the 10 seed versus the 2 seed, that's the setup there. And then let's see. Let's go look at where the line is right now. The line I'm seeing, and of course this could change by the time you guys watch this, is A&M by a point. So A&M a 1-point favorite in this game. So a pretty even matchup for a 10-2 game. That's, like I said, go back to the beginning. Wild to see a 7-10 with Arkansas and A&M. But I'm going to be honest with you guys. I think this is a 50-50 matchup, and I feel like I was the one kind of pushing the Texas A&M train for a while there. I said, look, these guys are not going anywhere. I don't know why people think that they're not an NCAA tournament team and that they're just going to really fall off. But I say all that to tell you that I just feel like Arkansas was the kind of team that if you give them that slight opening to regain some of that momentum, I just think that they come into this game with a really good shot to win it. And so I'm gonna take the upset here. I'm gonna pick Arkansas to win this one. And I know you Arkansas fans maybe getting nervous right now, but remember I picked you yesterday too to beat Auburn. But it's gonna be a tough challenge. But we see this so often that I think you have to pick one somewhere where a team just kind of gets hot, makes that run. And remember, A&M was that team last year, right? And we've said, I mean, Chris and I talked about it at the live show. We did a Bearded Iris. So look, if there's a team that can go from Thursday to Sunday, it's probably Arkansas. And even though they're the 10th seed, even though they're the lowest seed of the teams playing on Thursday, they can probably make that run just based on the talent. The talent is there. And if they put it all together, if the chemistry is there, I thought the chemistry was much better in that game against Auburn. They can do it. But I will say that to remind Texas A&M fans, look, I've been on the A&M. I've been pushing them more than probably anybody. And I think that they are going to be a team that you do not want to play in the NCAA tournament. I would not want to see them in my bracket based on the style. But in this game, I do feel like Arkansas picked up a little of that momentum now. And if you give them that slight edge, we've seen that in recent years. Eric Musselman has worked his magic in tournament play. I will take a chance here and pick Arkansas to win this one because I think this is certainly a possibility that they can do it. And again, would I be shocked if this is one of those games that's once again played in the 60s? Free throws, very physical, defensive style of game, not at all. But I'll take a chance here, guys. I'll pick Arkansas in this one to advance. All right, that takes us to the night session, or excuse me, the last game of the night, which will be Kentucky against Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt advanced past LSU, as we know. That was a tricky one, as we thought, going into it. And wound up, Vanderbilt handled it a lot better than we expected. They won that game by 9, but really felt like they were in control the entire way. LSU never led. And, we said KJ Williams probably going to have a big game. He had a big game, but it really didn't matter. Vanderbilt you talk about teams that giving them momentum. I don't mean outside of Alabama, I don't know if there's anybody that has more momentum than Vanderbilt right now, which A&M would probably be in that argument too. But yeah, I mean, look at what this team's doing. Tyron Lawrence, who we put on our All SEC underrated team, he had a great game, 22 points, got to the free throw line 11 times. You look at what Jordan Wright bring. Ezra Manjon, I mean, this guy, he should have probably been on our all underrated team. Like, you watch how he plays, and I think we know Liam Robbins has been a huge reason. And look, everybody has been a huge reason for Vanderbilt winning now 9 out of their last 10 games. But Manjon is just he is really, really something. And I think when you see kind of how his game has improved since the start of the season to where he's at now, that I think has been it's been a huge difference. Obviously, I think Robbins is the biggest impact on that, but Manjon has been fantastic when you look at just kind of these games they've had success in. And so, yeah, I thought he was once again really good in that game against LSU. And he's going to need to be in this one because, remember, these two teams just played not long ago. I will say, as I'm recording this, I don't know the status of Case and Wallace. I think the latest report is that he and CJ Frederick were both at practice. It sounds like they're going to have a chance to play. I assume it's kind of still the day-to-day tag for these guys, which you can always say it's day-to-day. You never know what that means exactly, but if Case and Wallace plays, that would be good because I do think Vanderbilt. We've seen too, and one of the things I think you have to look at with Vanderbilt, you can't really go just with the statistics that you see. Efficiency on defense is not a strength for Vanderbilt if you just look at it on paper, but they've been playing much better on the defensive side of the floor. And again, that's been a big reason too why they've turned this thing around. So, no Case and Wallace, maybe if he doesn't play, if he's not 100%, defensively, what can Vanderbilt do with that? Now, if he does play, that obviously gives Kentucky, I think, a much better sort of scenario here just with everything he brings to the table. Now, if you want to look back at the game they played 9 days ago, that was a game where, remember, Vanderbilt won this game in Rupp without Liam Robbins. And I think we have to keep that in mind. He got injured, 3 or 4 minutes into the game. But Lawrence, big game. Jordan Wright had a big game, 23 points. Of course, he hit the game winner. Kentucky really did a lot on the offensive boards, which you would expect. And I think that's another one here. Oscar Tshiebwe had 10 offensive rebounds with no Liam Robbins on the floor. How does Vanderbilt counter that in this game? Again, does he have the same kind of performance going for 21 and 20? What can Vanderbilt do to limit some of those opportunities for Oscar Tshiebwe? And I think that's very interesting to see. Antonio Reeves, we know, can go off at any time. We saw that against Arkansas. Against Vanderbilt the last time, he only went 1 of 8 from 3. So can Vanderbilt guard on the perimeter, and not allow those opportunities for Reeves? And another element, this game is in Nashville, Bridgestone Arena. Vanderbilt's in Nashville, but let's all be honest with ourselves. This is going to be a Kentucky home game. There are going to be a lot of people there. But once again, Vanderbilt just won at Rupp 9 days ago. So will that intimidate them? I don't think so. So this is, I'm looking at the numbers here. Kentucky's a 7.5 point favor is what I'm seeing right now. KenPom has this a 5-point game in Kentucky's favor. I think there are a lot of interesting elements here because we talk about motivation, right? The motivation of a team. What can they do to put themselves in a position to make the NCAA tournament? That's the question for Vanderbilt. It's very clear. If they win this game against Kentucky, you guys know, I said it several days ago. That was, probably last Saturday. I said, I think if they win 2, they're in. The bubble has kind of fallen much more in their favor, where I changed my mind a couple of days ago. But I think I'm still kind of back to that point where even though the bubble has gone in their favor, they've had some things work out for them. I still wonder if this is enough. But here's the thing, though. If they don't win, there's no debate anymore. I don't think that they get in. But if they do win, that makes the conversation even more interesting. And so that, I think, that motivation for Vanderbilt. They have been as hot as anybody. You can say, well, they don't have Robbins, but it's like, how can you deny what this team has done to win 9 of their last 10 games and now 3 games without him? And now they're playing a team they've already beaten without him. So I think that makes this setup so interesting. But as you guys are aware, if you watched our live show we did from Bearded Iris, I made my tournament picks, and I can't go against them until the teams that I picked to advance to the championship lose. So that's why I have to sort of pick Kentucky here, because I did have Alabama and Kentucky in the championship. So I'm gonna take the Cats to win this one. But again, a lot of that for me is contingent on Case and Wallace playing. If he does not play, I think this makes this way more. I mean, at that point, I don't know if I may even lean in Vanderbilt's favor in this one, just given the hot streak they're on and given the play they're getting from a guy like Magnon there. And once not even to discount what Tyron Lawrence is doing too. So it's like I wouldn't be shocked in that scenario, but I do think it's going to be a tough game to win against Kentucky with Oscar Tshiebwe. What kind of game does he have? We saw what he did last time without Robbins. There's just a lot of different elements. Kentucky's such a great offensive rebounding team because of Tshiebwe. They block shots. Can Vanderbilt get those same looks? Jerry Stackhouse, though, has done a great job putting his guys in position schematically, like just from a strategic standpoint. They have done a fantastic job, running their offense, getting good looks. And so maybe they can do the same here against a Kentucky team that sometimes still can struggle a little bit on the defensive end of the floor. So I love this matchup. I think this is one, like I said, I think I have to pick Kentucky. But if Wallace is out, I I don't know that if I wouldn't lean in Vanderbilt's favor in this game, because I really do look at this and feel like there's a lot of things that they can take away from the last meeting and really use that here to possibly pull off another huge win that would get them, in my opinion, right there in terms of potentially making the NCAA tournament. So there you go, guys. There's some thoughts on these 4 games. I know this went a little bit longer, but as you guys know, I'm excited. Like this is a fun time. This is a great set of quarterfinal games. So I am excited. I'm thrilled to talk about them. And so again, hopefully there's a lot of good stuff to talk about coming out of these games because they should be a lot of fun. So again, be sure to hit that subscribe button. And if we once again, Chris and I will be there watching these games at Bridgestone Arena. So should be a lot of fun. Hit the like button as well. And again, we appreciate your support of the channel here. It's been a lot of fun. And we will also talk about some things we have coming up. We talked about kind of our Selection Sunday live show we're going to do. I think Chris is going to be good for that one. If not, I promise, we'll put something together and I'll do it, or however we need to do that. But will be a lot of fun. And again, enjoy the games on Friday because, I think you've got 4 good ones here just looking at this thing on paper. So again, appreciate you guys as always. Hit subscribe, hit like, and we'll talk to you again soon here on Southeastern 14.